Hello, this is Dr. Moose. I've designed this video to help us prepare for the second half of class on January 31st, where you'll be investigating motor development theoretical perspectives and working in a group to sell a theory to your peers. This video includes instructions and an example.
The intention of selling your theory and becoming consumers for other groups' theories is to work towards the listed objectives. In addition, the example that I'll share with you in this video will help you work towards the objective on the bottom of the list. Remember that many different theoretical perspectives exist. Each one provides a different method to describe concepts and to help us to understand why changes in movement occur. Research exists in support of each of those theories.
For your group to be successful in selling your theory, you'll access and share resources to learn more about the theory that you'll select in class.
Next, your group can decide how best to sell your theory by identifying its attractive features. Perhaps it's the research that's been conducted using your theoretical framework or researchers' names to bring credibility. Or maybe you decide your theory is really useful and share examples to support that point. Finally, work together to create an advertisement to sell your theory and display your theory as a valid and accurate way to view and understand motor development. The format of your ad is entirely up to your group. Perhaps you'd like to make a print ad with a poster, or design a commercial and perform a live skit, or create a video of that commercial to show us in class. Maybe you'd like to make an internet ad or an infomercial.
Whatever format you decide, you'll design and present that in class on Tuesday as you try to attract your peers to your product, the theory.
Next, I'll share an example of an infomercial to sell my theory, Newell's model of constraints.
Good afternoon and welcome. Have you ever had success in a sport after years of struggling? Or have you ever fallen down while walking in a place where you've walked 1,000 times before? Why does that happen? Well, I have an amazing product to share with you that can help you solve these problems and answer these questions. Newell's model.
Developed by Dr. Carl Newell, an expert in kinesiology and biobehavioral health from Penn State, this model can help us to understand that the individual, the environment, and the task all play interacting roles in shaping movement. Yes, I see we have a question from an audience member. You say, what are constraints? Well, thank you for asking. Constraints are factors that function on a continuum to limit or permit movement. All of us possess a variety of individual structural constraints and functional constraints. These are our personal characteristics. Structural constraints might include things like height, or weight, or limb length. Functional constraints might include psychological variables like motivation, or interest, or enjoyment, or behavioral variables like how fatigued you are on a given day. Environmental constraints could include physical factors like the weather, and also sociocultural factors like who's actually there watching you move. Task constraints include objectives like the purpose of a particular sport, like scoring more points than another team, as well as rules like you must bounce the basketball every time you take a step, as well as equipment available for your movement. Within this model, notice how each of the sets of constraints influences movement while also interacting with each of the other constraints to fully shape our movements. So let's take a look at Newell's model in action. I'd like to call up a volunteer from the audience to join me.
That's odd. I didn't realize we had infants here today. That's all right. Come on up. Our audience demonstrator is Skylar, an 11-month-old infant with a structural constraint of high center of gravity. Notice how Skylar's structural constraint influences his movement here. Functional constraints of being tired or hungry can also impact his movement and his choice of movements. Notice what happens as we add an activity walker as a task constraint. Movement is even further enhanced when we add encouragement and clear the environment of extra toys. Thank you, Skylar, for demonstrating Newell's model of constraints in action.
So let's go back to one of our original questions. Have you ever succeeded in a sport after years of struggling? Let's answer that question using Newell's model. Perhaps you experienced a change in structural constraints, like you got taller or stronger. Or maybe there was a change in your functional constraints. You found your enjoyment for that particular sport. Or perhaps it was an interaction between environmental and task constraints, like a supportive coach who provides additional necessary equipment. In any event, there you go. Problem solved, all because of an outstanding new product, Newell's Model. Thanks for joining us for this infomercial. See you next time.
So I'll see you back in class on the 31st. We'll now be better prepared for the second half of class, where you'll have the opportunity to work in a group, to select a theory, design an ad, and sell your theory to your peers. See you then!